And welcome in once again to Hot Reads with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman. My name is Tom Vandervoort. Finally, week one of the NFL regular season is here. A lot of intriguing matchups. But Troy, let's start with the one you're calling in Washington. The Giants go to visit the Redskins, year two of the Mike Shanahan reign. But let's talk about the Giants side of the ball and Eli Manning, a Super Bowl winning quarterback, a lot of success in New York, 25 interceptions last year. Turnovers still a major concern in the preseason. What do you see with Eli when you break him down, and what do you expect from him in this game?
Well, I think Eli, what he has shown over the course of his career, he's a very streaky quarterback. And when he gets into a hot streak, he can throw the ball as well as anybody. And then we see periods where he really struggles. And I think the interceptions going back to last year, a lot of discussion about a number of those balls were tipped, and that's certainly true. But the reason that they were tipped was because the ball was thrown high into traffic, into the middle of the field. And I think that's what we saw in the preseason as well. He's not a guy who takes a lot of sacks. And so because of that, he's willing to unload the ball at times when maybe a receiver isn't prepared to have the ball thrown in his direction, or he's throwing off balance, ball comes out high, gets tipped, and is intercepted. But for this team, for this Giants team, to do what they hope to do going into the year, a couple of things have to happen. One, the defense has got to play really, really well and help carry this team. And then Eli's got to do a better job of protecting the football.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we flip it around and we look at the Redskins on offense and the Giants on defense, you've got Rex Grossman starting at quarterback for the Redskins after a competition in the preseason. And you got to look at the Redskins' offensive line, which has been a definite question mark the last few seasons, against a very stout Giants defensive line. Is Grossman just a safer pick than John Beck in this case, or how do you think that matchup breaks down?
Well, I was a little surprised, to be honest with you, that they made the decision to go with Rex Grossman. I think that, from my perspective, when you don't make the announcement as far as who your starting quarterback is until the week of the season opener, it will be interesting to me to see if Rex Grossman struggles early in this game, which is certainly capable of happening because of the Giants' defense. How long will Mike Shanahan stick with him? The offensive line for the Redskins, I think is a question mark, but yet through the offseason or through the preseason, they actually did a pretty good job. Tim Hightower, running back, that maybe can take some of the pressure off of Rex Grossman, but I really believe looking at this game, the Redskins are going to have to be able to throw the football in order to move it.
Let's turn to Peyton Manning, Indianapolis Colts. They're obviously going back to Texas to play the Texans in Houston, but no Peyton. It looks pretty certain that he's not going to play in that game. Can you just talk about having that kind of nagging injury? There's so many question marks surrounding Peyton Manning and the pressure that you feel as the starting quarterback to get back in the lineup.
Well, the difficult thing for not only Peyton Manning but for the entire Colts organization is that here you are going into week one. I mean, the surgery took place a few months ago. You're then thinking that, okay, we're going to get this handled, we're going to address it, he's going to rehabilitate it, and then he's going to be able to play once the season gets started. And so the uncertainty of being able to get him ready for the season opener when in fact there's been no contact in 6 months, I think is probably the bigger concern. If during that time he couldn't get ready to play in the opening game of the season, how long is this going to continue? And that's the answer that they don't really have. And so from that perspective, it's very unsettling. And that this is something that's really creating some problems when you consider the fact that Peyton Manning has never missed a start in the NFL, which is a tremendous record in and of itself. And the fact that he's not going to be able to play this week, in all likelihood, has got to be a big concern for the entire organization.
Who's going to emerge from each of these conferences and make it to the Super Bowl? Do you like the Packers to repeat in the NFC, and what do you see from the AFC?
Well, I do like the Packers, and if they hadn't have won the Super Bowl last year, they would be my pick to win the Super Bowl this year, and maybe they still are. The only reason I kind of hedge that a little bit is because it's so difficult to repeat in today's NFL. Not that it's ever been easy. So. But they're a little bit different. The Packers, that is because the number of players that went on IR last year and yet they still were able to pull it together at the end. A lot of people, what happens is the season ends and then you say, wow, the Packers won the Super Bowl. Clearly they were the best team throughout the year. Well, they went through a stretch there at the end. They had to win the last 2 games of the season just to get into the playoffs. And then they were on the road to go on and win it. And so there were a lot of good teams that were ahead of them as far as when the playoffs began. But Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to have another outstanding year, and then with some other key players. And in the AFC, I guess if I were to pick a Super Bowl matchup, as I sit here today going into Week 1, I would probably go with San Diego, and I'd do Green Bay. Green Bay, San Diego would be my pick in the Super Bowl.
Very interesting. Two great quarterbacks if that were to happen with Phillip Rivers and Aaron Rodgers. All right, Troy, listen, thank you. A long season ahead of us. We'll be talking to you every week and appreciate your time today.
You bet. Thanks, Tom.